Its genesis was at the Council on Foreign Relations in the fall of 1973. James Chase, then editor of Foreign Affairs, brought me together with Professor Nicholas Wall. He brought us together because both Nick and I had had the same conversation with James. French-American relations seemed to be captured by a visceral anti-Americanism in France and Francophobia in the United States.
On both the American and French side, there was a strong conviction that our destinies were linked.
We were founded really, as you know, to address a gap in misperceptions, misunderstandings, and the like between France and the United States, our oldest ally.
So we thought it would be a good idea to start a foundation.
It was the most exciting thing that could ever have been imagined.
The people who created the foundation felt we now need to actually create the next generation.
Nick Wall went to call on 3 former American ambassadors to France and was able to obtain from them the magnificent sum of $75,000. And Nick said, "We are in business." And I replied, "I don't think we're in business with $75,000, no office, and no staff."
I was hired as executive director. We started off in 1976 with a French-American journalist conference in Washington.
Attended by about 50 journalists from the 2 countries.
And from that came an amazing project, which was journalist internships, mainly for French journalists in American newspapers and television outlets. We also sent a few Americans to France. It was hard because they didn't speak French. In 1980, the foundation decided to embark on a series of meetings of future leaders, mainly people in their 20s who were very promising from France and the United States.
The French-American Foundation asked me if I would run something called the Young Leaders Program.
This was really a paradigm. We were the first people to do it.
And I thought it was a really good idea, and it was something that was needed. A lot of these people were on their way to becoming major players.
We have had presidents, prime ministers, possibly future president.
Some of them have actually, Americans even, very close contacts now in France as a result of this thing.
When I went to the meeting, it was actually the first meeting of the young leaders, and I found I was the only military officer in the 30 or so people who gathered together. And we gathered together in Talloires, in the Haute-Savoie, on the banks of the lovely Lake Annecy.
Forged deep friendships, actually, with not only my French colleagues during that period of time, but also my American counterparts, and to this day still have close relations.
Later, I became president of the French-American Foundation from 2001 to 2005.
I applied to the Young Leaders Program because I wanted to just get a broader perspective. I think everyone who's a young leader is starting to get pretty focused on their career path. So what I was looking for was just totally different points of view, perspectives, and ideas.
This opportunity really allowed me to get to know the country and the people and the leaders of France much more deeply.
It just it freshens your mind, it brightens your outlook, and it sort of changes your day to day.
We traveled actually to France one year, and then had an opportunity to forge bonds, talk about international and public policy, and just spend some quality time together.
I believe that the foundation has contributed to some very original work and thought in certain fields.
We have to face up, as the French have, that the experience of living and working and raising a family today demand a community response that we heretofore in this country have been unwilling to make.
We took a look at how 2 countries, America and France, address the needs of their youngest citizens.
We started the Translation Prize, and that has continued right up to today.
We also have programs on sustainable cities, on immigration reporting, on subjects that are very current today. So of course the question can be asked whether the French-American Foundation is as necessary today as it was then. My answer would be that it is relevant in a different way. When you look at what we are doing now, we have moved beyond the misperceptions question to practical cooperation.
People-to-people relations are extremely important, and so I think just the very fact that the foundation contributed, and I think contributed very well, to a better understanding between the two societies was a very, very important thing indeed.
Given the world now, given the dangers present, whether they're commercial or whether they're geopolitical, terrorism, the relationship between Europe and the United States has become even more important.
In a world where there's so much change going on, you need to have some stability. And I think the relationship with France can add to that stability.
In a world in which there are upheavals occurring in every region, the historic relationship across the Atlantic becomes even more important than it was in the Cold War period.
I have a bunch of really good friends from the program, and I think that the people I've met have most definitely influenced me.
To the extent that the French-American Foundation continues to foster strong interpersonal and lasting interpersonal relationships, I think the foundation will remain relevant.
It's always better when you have partnerships that are based on trust. It's what the French-American Foundation has done. And I am forever in the debt of the foundation for that.